Okay, you got it.
Let's see if he...
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, you're live. Don't say anything you don't want anybody to hear.
I committed to knowing.
I like that you brought it. It's okay. I don't want that to say anything. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Get those numbers, girl. Ready to go? Definitely.
All right, let's do this thing.
Not yet.
bring the drum in? You got the drum?
Jeff.
We're going to let Bernadette start, and then we're going to do it, okay? We're going to let her start.
You want to take it? Give it. It's okay. Just put it on the table. It's okay.
Oh, yeah, flip it around. Better?
Like 10 seconds. Oh, 10 seconds.
Good? There we go. Let's do this. We're going to let her speak first, then you play, okay?
Jeff? I know. So, you, me, you.
Got it.
You ready?
Yeah.
Saul, get me started. Thank you. Thank you so much, Saul. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a packed evening in the city of Coconut Creek. On behalf of the city of Coconut Creek, it is my honor. A little bit louder? Louder? All right, let's see if I can do it. My mom says I can. All right. On behalf, is that better? Yeah. Oh, all right. On behalf of the city of Coconut Creek, it is my honor to welcome you to our second annual A Night with Holocaust Survivors event. I hope you'll forgive me if I take a look at my notes every once in a while. We have a couple of people I'm going to reference, and I want to make sure that I get their names correct. Today is International Holocaust Remembrance Day. It's also the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. What better day than to have the events we've organized here in the city of Coconut Creek than today? The events we've organized here today, the Hate Ends Now cattle car exhibit that you can see outside, this session featuring Holocaust survivors, the Holocaust artifacts that you can find in the back of the room, and the table that's in the lobby for the Goodman Jewish Family Services, where they're talking about Holocaust survivors' benefits that they provide. All of these reflect the city's commitment to unity in our community and ensuring fair and equitable treatment for all. I'd like to start off by thanking the person who brought us the cattle car that's outside in our courtyard. His name is Todd Cohn, and he and his volunteers from the Hate Ends Now cattle car shared their powerful message all day today. We had buses from several of our high schools, we had principals stop by, we had elected officials stop by, and most importantly, we had all of you that were able to secure a spot, stop by and be able to experience that. Now, if you weren't able to get one of those spots, I would encourage you to stay afterwards. We've worked with them to have them hold open the cattle car. They're going to have a loop of the video going through so you can go walk over there and experience it for yourself, as well as see the artifacts in the back of the room. And since Mr. Cohn is here and he can speak more eloquently than I can about his cattle car, if you could come up and say a few brief words, I'd appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Todd Cohn. Is it all right if am I going to mess this up? I'm the CEO of Hate Ends Now, and the Hate Ends Now exhibit is a replica of a Holocaust-era cattle car. Inside is a 360-degree, fully immersive, multimedia presentation. It goes through the story of a couple survivors, the history of the Holocaust, talks about the persecution of different minorities by the Nazis, and it closes with the most important part that's designed for an audience of students, empowering them to make a difference in the world. 80 years ago, it was cattle cars just like the one that's outside that took convoys of Jews and other victims of the Nazis to one of 6 industrialized sites of mass murder, or 40,000 different labor camps, concentration camps, and ghettos. We today take that cattle car around the country to different high schools and universities because we know that today more than ever, as we see in what's happening on universities, we see in political events, in current events around the country and around the world, there's no more important time than now for us to educate our students and our young people about the impact of hate. And that's what we are here to do, and that's what we are doing, and that is our challenge, all of us, to make sure that the next generation understands that they have a role to take a stand against hate in all of its forms. I hope that you will take an opportunity on your way out to stop in and see a little bit about what we're doing, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Bernadette, and thank you to the City Commission. Thank you for having us really on this very auspicious day, the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz.
I would also like to thank Ramey Spiegel, I think I got your name right this time, from the Goodman Jewish Family Services of Broward County. So Goodman Jewish Family Services provides a whole myriad of services to Jewish Americans. However, she works under a particular agency that provides Holocaust survivor benefits. I learned a lot when I was speaking with her this week. And she's going to be here tonight with her table to educate about the benefits that are available to Holocaust survivors, anywhere from car service to health service to food service, you name it. There are so many services that are available through reparations from Germany. And so I would like to bring her up to talk a little bit about that, but most importantly, what I would like for you to do, if you can, is to grab some materials in the back before you leave. At the end of the day, it's incumbent upon all of us to take this materials and bring it back to our communities and share, in the hopes that maybe you'll reach a Holocaust survivor who didn't know about those services and they'll be able to take advantage. That would be the purpose of that. So Ramey, if you can come up and say a few brief words. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ramey Spiegel. I'm the Assistant Director of the Holocaust Survivor Assistance Program at Goodman JFS. Oh, sorry. Is that better? Okay, so we are available to help all Holocaust survivors with reparations assistance. So if you know of any survivors who need help with their life certificates or with the latest PANEEM, if anyone knows what I'm talking about, for the hardship supplemental fund, we can help you. Also, if you do know of a Holocaust survivor who needs assistance and already receives reparations, we can provide case management, home care assistance, housekeeping, some financial assistance, like Bernadette said, for transportation, medical needs, incontinence products, etc. But we have over 700 survivors in Broward County that we serve. We have 12 care managers that work directly with all of those survivors, and we are available. We also have wraparound services for the whole community, a food pantry, a clothing pantry. So actually my table is out in the front, but there are flyers about our agency with our website. So we also have benefits, behavioral health office in Tamarack, which is close to you guys, so if you need help. Anyway, thank you.
I definitely appreciated learning about the transportation benefits. I was actually going to pick up one of our Holocaust survivors tonight, and I had to warn him and his wife to bring a lint brush because I have 3 dogs and 2 cats. And luckily, we found out from Ramey about the transportation benefits, and he was able to be picked up and not have to deal with dog hair.
That's awesome.
Now, 2 more thanks before we get started with the reason why you're here. So first of all, to the survivors who are joining us this evening, speckled throughout the room, in the front row, and up here on the dais. We are profoundly grateful for your courage in sharing your stories with all of us. You inspire us to continue learning, but most importantly, to stand together against hate. And to all of us in this room, and to those who are watching or listening on our live stream, I want to thank you for being a part of this very important evening, but also for helping to ensure that these stories are not forgotten. And that's why we're here tonight. So without further ado, I would like to turn the microphone over to 2 of our commissioners, Commissioner Wasserman and Rydell. They're going to be introducing you to the rest of the commission and getting started with our very important presentation tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bernadette. Thank you so much. And on behalf of the City Commission, the Mayor Sandy Welch, our Vice Mayor Jackie Raley, Commissioner John Brody, and Commissioner Josh Rydell, we're so, yes, clap it up for everybody. We're so proud to be here our second year in a row, being able to do this for our residents. It is something that, as we know, time continues to tick, and these special, precious moments are what helps us keep the legacy, keep the stories moving to younger generations, and just so grateful you all took the time out of your evening to be here with us. And our gentleman here and Miss Rebecca there. I'd like to also kick it to Commissioner Rydell. Did you have anything to say to start us off here?
Welcome everybody again. For those that joined us last year, the numbers keep getting bigger and bigger. We get more and more people, which is a really good thing. I do want to give a special shout out. He's not expecting it to Jeff, Commissioner Wasserman. Right when he got elected, I remember one of his first meetings, he was sitting up on the dais and he said during comment, "Hey, there's this cattle car exhibit and it's something I really want to bring to Coconut Creek." He said it. And I didn't even know what it was at the time. Candidly, Todd, I was sweating with shivers today for so many reasons. But Jeff had a vision to bring this here, and here we are today. And this programming is important. The discussions and the stories are important. Important for Jews, important for our community, important for our society. So thank you for being here. Thank you for participating. And if we got extra time blocks, for those of you who haven't, that it's an immersive experience. And Todd didn't say it, I don't think, to the big group, but that's how you can teach different communities now. My 12-year-old middle schooler did that. It reaches our kids. And that's really the goal of what we need to be doing here. Commissioner Wasserman, do you want to introduce our guests?
Absolutely. Oh, I saw your spoon fell. Where'd the spoon go?
There will be some music engaged in our presentation this evening.
We got spoons. There you go, Saul. All right. So first I'd like to introduce Rebecca. All right, Rebecca's in the front row here. Rebecca was 7 in the summer of 1939. Her father took her to sleepaway camp on the border, on the Russian side. She wanted her older sister to come with her, but her mother wanted one daughter to be at home. She was having a good time. Then, well, summer camp's a special place. We meet a lot of friends. You're having more than a good time, I assume. Then September 1st happened. Her father was unable to get her. As the war raged on, the camp administrators, with both Jewish and non-Jewish children, took everyone east. Over the years, they made a few moves in an orphanage until they got to Siberia, where they remained until the end of the war. Her whole family was killed, including her sister. When Jewish organizations came to the orphanage looking for Jewish children, she remembered having an uncle in Israel. They found him, and they took her to Israel. And here is Rebecca today with us in the city of Coconut Creek. And what a journey. And if you want to say anything, please. If not, we totally understand. But we're so grateful that you're here with us. And please give it up for Rebecca, everybody. This is not planned. Rebecca is going off script, and we love it.
I was 4 years old when the Germans Germans and the Soviet Union divided Poland between them. I was born in a little town named Sambor, and my father used to be a merchant, a wood merchant, and when the war started, all of a sudden there was no Jewish merchants and things like this. And you have to know that the Soviet Union took over a part of Poland, which today it's called the Ukraine. When the war started, I was sent to a summer camp, like another children, and was my luck that the people who ran the place decided to evacuate us to the Soviet Union. As it is, when we arrived in the town of Kiev, everybody knows where is Kiev, my father decided to come and take me home. But 4 days later, we were evacuated again in the middle of the Soviet Union on the river Volga, if you know where that is. And there I was. I was at the time 9 years old, alone. No parents, nobody. It was my luck that the Polish government took care of children and of people that were disabled. So rather than go for 1 month, I had to stay there about 5 years alone. In 1943, a woman from my town came and took all the children back to the city of Sambor. Sambor is located near Lvov. It's about a half an hour to Lvov. And I was left alone again. At the very end, I had to stay there about 5 years. And the Polish government, I really thank them and everybody, transported me back to Poland. And in Poland, here I go again. I have nobody. And I was placed in a Catholic orphanage because I had nobody. I went to church. I was a good Catholic. And one day, a woman came. She said that she was my aunt. She was not my aunt, but she was a Jewish woman who was looking for Jewish children that survived. And thanks God, I was taken back to a Jewish place. Every day, another child, a survivor, came to stay with us. There were people who survived, and their mission was to look for surviving children. We ended up being a big group, but we couldn't go to Israel because it took time. By the time that the state of Israel was it was in 1949 when people started to come to the state of Israel. And I want you to know that was the best place that you could live with it. Anyway, I was looking who survived. The town that I was born had 8,000 Jewish people. In December 13, 1942, nobody survived. Anyway, I was looking, who else do I have? A couple came and said that they know somebody who is a big lawyer, the same name. So I contacted them, and from them I learned that my father had two brothers in Israel. And it took time. We had to leave like a big group without any permission from the government of Poland to go to Israel. It took us a long time. We first went to Czechoslovakia, and thanks God to the Czechoslovakian government, because they let us come. From there, we went to Vienna, and from Vienna, we sailed to the land of Israel. So, living in this country was a terrible thing to see all those students that they were happy that they can take the country of Israel, and that the Israelis are bad people, and they are fighting. That was terrible for me to look and see all of them demonstrating that the Jewish people should not have a country. So I hope now that Mr. Trump is our leader, and that all this is finished.
Thank you. That's a lot better than the paragraph I read. Jeez.
We have two panelists this evening. Panelist discussion. I'm going to introduce Saul for those of you that have joined us before. Saul Dreyer. So give Saul a round of applause real quick. Saul Dreyer was... I was going to introduce you. Do you want me to introduce?
He's going to read something. He's going to read a little thing. Go ahead.
All right. Saul Dreyer was born in Poland in 1925. Until 1939, he had a normal childhood in Krakow. However, his youth was stopped by the Second World War, where the life of a majority of Jewish people there turned into a nightmare. Saul spent years in various concentration camps, and I remember from last time, something that motivated him and got him through some of the darkest moments was his passion for music. After liberation by the Americans, he spent a few years in Italy. He then migrated to the United States, where he met his wife, started a business. We are blessed to have him, 99 years young. And even though his youth was stolen, he is more youthful than I think any of us here. He is the founder of the Holocaust Survivor Band, and he's been featured in some stories that we've screened. His life has been told. We were blessed to have him here last year, and his band holds concerts and he speaks around the world, and I think we're going to get a little musical interlude at some point this evening. So I'll introduce him. I'm going to turn it to Commissioner Wasserman for him to introduce Eric.
And I want to introduce Eric Lippitz right in the middle here. It's very difficult when we're trying to put this together to reach out and find people who want to come and speak and share their story. And Eric, right when I called you, you were already in the car on the way here. And I thank you so much. The Lippitz family story begins in Belgium, with subsequent chapters that we'll get into, including Spain, Morocco, and Portugal as they fled the Nazis. Lippitz and his parents and two older brothers secured passage to America with the help of his father's brother. Their visas, however, were temporary, and they were forced to leave the United States due to a Jewish quota. His uncle's business enabled the family to board a ship bound for Manila, Philippines, then an American protectorate, which was safer for Jews than Belgium. They arrived prior to the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And Eric, I want to start with that. You have videos on YouTube like Saul. Talk to me about when you came, when you were basically told that you had to leave the United States once you actually found safety and freedom.
Right. You got a mic here? Oh, perfect. It's up. You're good. Just talk. You're good.
Yeah. Sure, you want my story? Start the story.
You can start any way you want.
Okay. Good night. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here. My name is Eric Lippitz. I'm from Antwerp, Belgium. I was born October 31st, 1936. My father was from Kovno, Lithuania. My mother was from Poland. My early memories are basically pretty short, and that was in Belgium because the Germans started bombing and the Luftwaffe was blitzkrieging with the soldiers, and it didn't take long for Belgium to surrender. We tried to make it through to France because we thought the Maginot Line was going to hold the Nazis back. Of course it didn't. We just spent about, I think, a week or two in France with a wonderful Greek family, Christian Greek family, who was in the halva business. I think most of you here are of the age that you still know what halva is. To all the kids, I have to explain it to them, to go to Publix and ask for halva, but I doubt anyone did. But one day the owner came and he said, listen, you've got to leave because the Nazis are already here, and if they see you, it'll be finished. You'll be in a camp and you'll be in the gas chambers. You've got to get out. And we did. We had no choice. But prior to this, my father had an inkling, more than an inkling, that Germany was going to attack Belgium. And he went to see a friend of his who was in the diamond business. Antwerp is the capital of the diamond industry. Now it's Israel and Antwerp. And my father told a man there who was a very good friend of his what he thought the situation would be. And the man said, don't be silly, he said. Germans dropped leaflets here just a week ago. They said if they come into Belgium, nobody should worry, nobody should leave. We're not against the Jews, we're not against anybody. Every business will go on as usual. And my father said to him, you know, if you believe that, I'll give you a ticket to the moon for some diamonds. That was pretty much it. My father bought a few diamonds from him because he felt if we tried to escape from Belgium, especially by car, we were 5 people. I had 2 older brothers and, of course, my parents and me. So my father took the excuse me, my father took the diamonds and he went to the bank and put them in a safe deposit box because he felt the war was still probably a month or two away. Of course, that was not what happened. The Nazis came in, we were on the run, and I've got to tell you, and it's a horror story, what happened with this man. He was a very wealthy diamond dealer, quite young. I think his parents started the business, and he was married with 2 little babies. Once the Germans came in, they were sitting and having dinner. They didn't realize how close the Nazis were, and all of a sudden there's a bang on the door, and he opens up, and there he was in full dress, a Nazi colonel with the black hat, boots, the whole bit, trying to look like he was a human being. And the man said, what is it? What do you want here? And the Nazi looked at him and he said, what do I want here? I'll tell you what I want here. I want to kill you, and then I'll work on your family. And with that, he took out his Luger, that's the German revolver, and put a bullet in his head. His wife is standing there with the 2 babies, holding 2 babies, screaming at him, get out of here, get out of here. What are you doing? Look, you just killed my husband. You're taking everything I have. So he said, Madame, very politely, unless you want the same treatment that your husband just got, get down those stairs and go where the trucks are. They were rounding up all the Jews, all the gypsies, all the homosexuals, all the blacks, anybody that was there, and rounding them up to put them in a camp. So she grabbed the 2 babies, put a blanket around them, and started to go down the stairs. And with that, German soldiers were making bets to see if she would be able to hold on to her children as they pushed her down the stairs. And they did. They pushed her down the stairs, and she rolled down and held on to those 2 little babies. She was bleeding a little bit. And the German soldiers downstairs said, get into the truck over there, get into the truck. So she walked over, holding her 2 little babies. And a few people there in the truck helped her up, and she's sitting there, and she's cold, and she's crying. And a German officer comes by, and he says, good evening, madame, how are you? She said, how am I? You just killed my husband, you took my apartment, you took everything I have, except my 2 little babies. So he said, oh, madame, 2 babies? And she said, yes, and they're going with me wherever I go. He said, Madame, I'm sorry to tell you, but you can only take 1 child. Friends, what do? Put yourself in that place, a dark, cold night, and a filthy Nazi soldier saying to you, you can only take 1 child, Madame. She said, no, they're going with me. So he said, no trouble, madame. We don't have enough room on the trucks anyway, so I'll just take my Luger and I'll put a bullet in your head as well as the children. She said, no, don't do that. So she said, madame, make up your mind what you want to do. At that point, she lost her control completely. She didn't speak for the next 4.5, 5 years. She took both children and threw them at the Germans. They caught the babies, and the officer told the 2 German soldiers, show them how nicely we treat Jewish children. With that, they took the 2 babies, held them by the feet, and smashed their heads against the wall. This is what we dealt with for the next 5 years. And there now they ask for forgiveness. You know what they can do with it. That was that. She didn't stay. She went to Buchenwald. She was taken there. And we heard the story after we were liberated. I'm jumping ahead now a bit. After we were liberated in the Philippines by the 1st Cavalry Division, American Cavalry Division, where my father found out she was alive and living in New York, and he went to see her. It's probably the first time she really spoke at all since the war. Excuse me.
Eric, sorry to interrupt. That was intense. I want to focus on your family, and I want to focus on your father's brother and how he was able to secure passage to America. Can you kind of talk about the process? I understand your father was he well connected? Can you give us a little background into that?
Yes. My father's brother came way before the war started. He came to America and built up a business making uniforms for the American Army Women's Corps. And he was quite successful, very successful actually. And he made, like all people involved with politics, he made good friends in the right places. So he was able to help us out. Our escape from Belgium was horrific. I don't know how much you want me to continue.
Talked about the escape and then how.
All right, you can always stop me.
You got
Just
it.
hit me on the head. We made it up to the Spanish border, and my uncle arranged for tickets on a boat called the Siboney out of Portugal to go to New York. But the mistake my father did was the diamonds were in Antwerp, and he told my mother, look, I've got to go back. I've got to go back. And my mother was very afraid. She said, if we get separated now, that's going to be it. We'll never see each other again. We'll end up in the gas chambers. He said, if I don't go back and get the diamonds, for sure we'll end up in the gas chambers. So he took my oldest brother, who was 4 years older than me, and he went back to Antwerp. Our house was about the only one that was standing still, although it was at an angle. Most of them were destroyed by the Luftwaffe, the German bombers. Dressed my brother up, and they went into a trolley that was going into the heart of Antwerp. As he got off, the only thing he saw was Nazi uniforms. And he didn't know what to say, what to do. And they looked at him and said, oh boy, more meat for the gas chambers. But my father not only was a very brilliant man, a graduate of Liège, but he's also a very strong man. And he spoke about 5-6 languages fluently. Fortunately, German was one of the languages he spoke. So he had guts. When the German soldiers saw him and they started approaching him, he approached them. Ach, a guten Tag. Welcome to Antwerp, welcome to Belgium. We're so glad you're here. Maybe there'll be some order now. And they talked for a while. They thought he was German also. So he said, well, I've got to go to the bank. I've got to get this boy ready for school also. And he said, you know what? I live down, and he gave some address that didn't exist. He says, come and have a schnapps with us, and we'll talk, and you can call your families, whatever you like. And that was it. Gets to the bank, he goes down with a vault saw, takes out the diamonds, whatever there was left, whatever was there rather, and he put some in my brother's pocket, and he took some in his pocket, went back upstairs, went down the stairs now to the street. Who's standing there? I think he said 5 or 6 Gestapo people. They're in civilian uniforms. They're the worst, I won't use the words animals that you ever want to see. And they have a nose that can just smell if it's somebody that's an enemy. And they pointed to him, and they started going to him. And he said, you know what, in perfect German, you're a bunch of idiots. How long do you think we have to wait to go to Berlin to hear the concerts of Wagner and Beethoven and Mozart and all, when you're so busy building bombs and ready to bomb Belgium and all the other countries? What's wrong with you people? They started laughing. So he started making conversation with them also, and he said, you know what? When you get some brains in your head and you fix the telephone wires, you can come to my house and you can call your parents, your sweethearts, your wives, whatever you like. I said, oh, fine, fine, fine. My father told me in later years he was never so scared in his life. With that, he said, well, I got to get this boy to school, so Wiedersehen, and I hope I see you again very soon. made it back. We got as far as Dunkirk and then to the Spanish border. And when we got to the border with Spain, my father took out a few diamonds and gave it to them. You know, they opened up, but they said, "Not you, sir," to my father. "You're old enough to fight in the Belgian army. You're old enough to fight the Nazis. You have to go back and fight." My father said, "What, are you joking? There is no more Belgium. It's Nazi-occupied country now. There's nothing to go back to." He said, "Look, we have very strict orders." So my father kept his cool, and he said, "May I use a telephone here?" They said, "Sure." They pointed to a house. He went in. He managed somehow or other, I don't know how, to reach his brother. And his brother said, "I know what's going on. I know they don't want you to cross." He said, "Go to Morocco. Go to the Casablanca, and I'll give you the name of a hotel, and wait to hear from me. Your wife and the children, let them stay in Spain as long as necessary." Now, Spain was already full of Nazis, and they weren't at war, so they couldn't do much, but they followed us around everywhere. My poor mother was a nervous wreck, to say the least. Finally, she gets a call to come to the French embassy, which she did, and they said, "Send a cable to your husband at this hotel in Casablanca. Say the children are very sick. Come immediately." He did it. Day went by, 2 days, a week went by. Finally, they sent another cable. Finally, a cable came back. "I'm on my way to see you." I don't know how my father got back to Spain, but he did. And there was a train leaving for Portugal at that point. I think that's about the only, I have 2 or 3 pictures of that departing. Some of my family made it to Cuba. Most of them were killed.
Eric, let's do a Saul drum break, right? You want to do a little drum, Saul?
I beg your pardon?
You want to play some drums?
Well, I will try to. I'm tired of looking at them.
I know. You were getting antsy. You got it.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I start to play my little drums for a while, next month, on the 29th of April, you all can celebrate with me. I'll be 100 years old. Yesterday, I was playing with my full orchestra in Temple Emmanuel in West Palm Beach. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the audience I had yesterday, and this is the audience I've got today. God bless you. I'm going to be short, and sweet. I have 4 children. I have 3 great children. One son who retired from the aviation in the United States, pilot, captain, lives in Israel. They're flying all in next month because we're going to celebrate right here in Wilmore my 100-year anniversary, my 100-year birthday. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's very hard for me to stand. It's very hard for me to play the drums, you know, the snarls. But if I play the drums, I sit on a chair and then in front of me. So I'm going to try a little bit. If it's going to work, if not, if don't get mad, please.
We would never.
Uvinu malkeinu v'choshienu. Uvinu malkeinu Jose, Jose, Jose. Ta-ra-ra-ra-dee-ra-ra. Well, to be 99 is not easy, but to be 100, it will be a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, I survived many, many things, but one thing I'm going to tell you, that God, in Yiddishkeit, not too much, is with me. 35 years ago, I have surgery, and they removed my stomach. I had cancer. Ladies and gentlemen, since then, I live, I'm here, I play. Yesterday, I played to our audience of 370 people in Temple Emmanuel in West Palm Beach. I was going wild. I wish I had my orchestra here, but I'm gonna surprise you. On my birthday, I'm gonna have my orchestra in Vinmore. I'm being surprised. I had a friend, and with his wife came to my 75th birthday party in my house here in Vinmore. And he said, Sal, we go, 95, excuse me. He said, Sal, if you're gonna be 100, you don't have to worry. I says, I know that. He says, you know why? I says, no, because you're gonna be on a boat, you're gonna be celebrate you 100. Since then, I didn't see the guy. No, I'm kidding. They're preparing for me a very beautiful party on my 29th birthday next month. But anyway, if you want to join me, folks, you know where I live. You got my address. I got 2 sets of drums home, so I can for you play. One in the living room, another one in my bedroom. Thank you. If somebody wants to join me, don't volunteer because I love women.
So on such a day, to have so much joy and happiness that you have, it's a blessing for our city. It's a blessing for all of us in this room to have you here, and I can't wait for that 100th birthday party. I am pumped.
Well, I got news for you. What boat I gonna be on? I don't know, but I'm gonna be on a boat. Well, I got news for you. Very possible. I don't know. The people doing it for me are surprised. My son's flying it with a child. His wife from Israel. My whole family is here. If I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna advise you, so you are invited. If I won't do nothing, wish me a happy 100. Thank you.
So Jeff, I want Eric to answer a question, because I heard some kind of surprised gasps when we were telling his story. Eric, talk to everybody about America having a Jewish quota, because I think that a lot of people don't know that. And I'd love for him to just talk about that a little bit, because it's really interesting, and that's something that you don't routinely see when we discuss the Holocaust. So Eric, please.
Are we on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. We managed to get on a train that was going from Spain to Portugal. The only thing is, it was a total blackout. Everybody knew that a world war was going to start. and the train was packed with people. I mean, we were like sardines there. And there was a man sitting not far from me, where we were all standing, and a soldier goes to him and says, "Monsieur, qu'est-ce qu'il y a avec toi? Est malade?" And he says, I can't get up, I have to sit down. So he said, fine. He said, take the two little ones and put them on your lap. And he says, no, my leg is too bad. Then another Belgian soldier went up to him and he said, sir, you know you make choices in life, and now there's a war, the choices change around. Either get up and give the lady and her 3 children a seat, let them sit down, or take two little ones on your lap, or I can just shoot you. So he got very nervous, and he says, okay, I'll take the children on my lap. So one of the soldiers picks me up, puts me on his lap, I'm sitting there. Then he picks up my brother Leon and puts him on his other lap. And we were only small children. With that, Leon's leg kicked. He kicked a transmitter that was in this man's pants. He was a Nazi spy. He was telegramming to the telegram, trying to signal the Luftwaffe when the train was leaving so they could bomb it and kill more Jews, more gypsies, more everybody. With that, the Belgian soldiers got him. They punched him in the face. They dragged him outside. Of course, they shut the transmitter off, and they shot him. That was it. C'est la guerre. It's the war. What can you do? We made it to Portugal. We got on the boat called the Siboney, and as we got on, the captain gets on the horn on the speaker and says, I have 2 announcements to make, and you better all listen very carefully. First of all, we just got a cable that the worst storm to ever hit the Atlantic is coming this way. So if anybody wants to get off, this is the time to do it. The second is that the Atlantic is full of Nazi submarines, U-boats, and they would like nothing better than to sink a boat full of Jews. So again, it's up to you. If you want to get off, get off. I asked my father later in life, what happened? How many people got off? He said 0. They would all rather take their chances with the ocean than with the Nazis. So that was it. We set sail. And by morning, nobody was in their cabins. Everybody was up on deck throwing up into the ocean. And the captain, there was only 3 people that were fine. The captain, my father, and me. And I was having such fun. You can't imagine. The waves were going over the boat, and the boat was going up and down. I was having the time of my life, and the captain was telling all the sailors, look at this young boy. He's going to be my first mate going back. It took about, I think, 3 days for the storm, that we were in the storm. Then we were fine sailing. Exactly. Luckily for us, because the storm probably saved our lives, the submarines couldn't even aim at us because of the way that we were sailing. We come at 5 o'clock in the morning. My mother had told me, the captain gets on the horn again, and he says, I want everybody on deck. And we all thought, oh my gosh, we're captured by the Germans, we're in trouble. But no, you know what we saw? You got it, the Statue of Liberty. Everybody's crying and hugging and dancing on the deck and this and that. Little did we know what was ahead of us. And we go down the gangplank. This is Ellis Island now. And who's there? The FBI, the naturalization people, you name it. And they put us in a room. A doctor came in with superficial look and said they'll all live, they're okay. And then the immigration people come in, and they said, first, I want to congratulate you. Very few people escaped the Nazis with a whole family. You're very lucky, and you're a very smart man the way you've managed to get over here. But I've also got bad news for you. And my mother already, I can see the tears coming down. You can't stay here. The Congress passed a law to only take a certain amount of Jews in, and we're already over quota. You have to go back to Belgium or any other occupied country. My mother burst out crying. I thought my father was going to kill him, but he kept his cool. He said, "May I use your telephone?" It's the second time. So he did. He went to another room. He called up his brother, and his brother said, "I'm aware of the situation. I'm talking to people in Washington now. Be back to you." So my father comes back. He winks at my mother. My mother had a hard time keeping a straight face. And all of a sudden, as he's talking to us, the immigration man, another fellow comes in, and he said, "Let these people go. They're only staying here 5 days, and then they're going to the Philippines. They're going to be working for South Seas Trading Company," Mr. Lipitz's brother. So that was it. They let us go. We stayed, I think, about a week or so in New York. We tried to find out if we could get up to Canada and then back, but no. They wanted us out, out, out. And by the way, at the end of the war, my father found out there was a quota, but they were way under quota. They just didn't want any Jews coming into America. I mean, the Nazi Party in New York had a big meeting in Madison Square Garden at the time against blacks, against Jews, you name it. It was disgusting, absolutely disgusting, and don't think it can't happen again. We got on a boat going to Manila, and within a month, my father said, "You know, I'm looking at the English newspapers, and I'm convinced the Japanese are going to attack. We're going to be in a war with Japan because America said they're not allowed to go to Malaysia or any of these other places where there's rubber and use it for their armies. They were already in China. If any of you have read The Rape of Nanking, you'll know what happened over there. I don't want to get into that right now. But everybody says, Prussia, my father's name was Abraham. He said, "What, are you crazy? Can you imagine Japan, a little country like Japan, attacking America? Impossible. I mean, why not attack an elephant with an ant? It's absolutely ridiculous." P.S. came December 7th, 1941. You all know, well, most of you know Pearl Harbor. Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, and I think it was 10 to 11 days later, they were already in Manila. General MacArthur made an escape. He was in Manila at the time, and so was General Eisenhower. Actually, MacArthur had a higher grade than Eisenhower, and they made it to Australia, and from there they went to America. And my father said, "You know what? We're stuck. We're stuck. What are we going to do, swim 1,000 miles to Australia in the shark-infested Pacific?" So what he did was, just before Pearl Harbor, he went out and he bought us, we didn't have much money at that time, but he bought as much canned goods as he could. He said, because there's going to be a real problem here with food with the Japanese. If you take a canned goods, Campbell's soup or desserts, whatever it is, and every week you turn it over, it can last for years. If you just leave it standing, after a year and a half, 2 years, it blows up, and you may as well throw it in the garbage because it's poisoned. It's a good thing to know. Hopefully you'll never have to use it. Japanese come in, and they rounded us all up, and they brought us to a place called Santa Tomas, St. Thomas. It's a university in Manila, and they turned it into a prison camp, concentration camp, torture. They put up tents. The Japanese officers all stayed in the building, and they put big tents up. Now, you've got to understand, we come from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Belgium is like England to a great deal with weather-wise. Here, in the Pacific, 90 degrees is a cold day. It usually can go well over 100. There were no mosquito net, there were no screens on the window. The air condition didn't exist, and there was malaria, dengue fever, you name it, the disease, we got it all at the end. And if it wasn't for the American troops, for one more year, we would have been gone. But they put us all in this tent, and my father one day sees this Japanese officer walking and talking to somebody in English. So my father said, I'm going to try something. He went out and he bowed very low. You got to be careful with the Japanese at that time. You don't bow low enough, you won't have a head. And he said, sir, may I speak to you? So the Japanese officer turned around and says, what do you want? So he said, I don't know why you're keeping us here. We're not at war with you. We're not Americans. We're from Belgium. We're just passing through. So he said, give me your passports. Went back into the tent. He gave the Japanese colonel or whatever he was the passports. And he said, we'll be back to you. About 4 or 5 days go by. Japanese soldiers walk into our tent and with their rifles and bayonets, and they look at my father and says, like that, come follow us. So my father went out and he sees the Japanese officer there, and he says, Abe, called my father Abe, he says, I want to tell you something. First of all, never again lie to a Japanese soldier or officer. He said, my father said, I'm not lying to you. We're not Americans. He said, I know you're not Americans. You escaped from Belgium, and you went all through Europe, and you come over here. The Germans were ready to kill you. The Americans, those filthy Yankees, he said, you think they like you? Why do you think you're in the Philippines? And my father says, oh, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to do? He says, Abe, you've had experience in the bristle business. Now, bristles, if you don't know, are the hair from animals, basically pigs and horses. And before nylon came in, they made brushes from the hair and shaving brushes, paint brushes, you name it. And even now, if you want a real good brush, whether it's a hairbrush or a paintbrush, you'll ask for bristle, not for nylon. So he said, Abe, I tell you what, we'll make a deal. You have a choice. You want to work for the great Japanese government, you pick 60 Filipinos, you teach them how to clean a rifle with the bristles, and we'll let you go for now. And you can go back to your little apartment. And my father told me, he was thinking, if I say no, it'll be my head and the rest of my family. So he said, okay, I'll do it. So he goes back into the tent, and we're starting to walk to our house, and my mother goes like this to him, and she says, we're being followed. My father said, I know we're being followed. Don't turn around again. When we get near the apartment, I'll nudge you, take the children, and run in and lock the door. He said, I'll fight them off. My father was a very, very strong man. So we get near the apartment. My father gives her a nudge. She grabs me and my 2 brothers and runs to the apartment. My father runs towards them. They're all Filipinos and ready for a fight. And they start laughing. They said, Abe, relax. We're your friends. My father didn't know what to do. He said, what do you want from me? He said, Abe, come over here. Please, come over here. We want to talk to you. So my father was beginning to be less than cautious, but he walked over to them, and they said, Abe, we are Filipino guerrillas. We are going to fight the Japanese right to the end, and we're going to kill as many as possible. Is there anything you can do to help us? And my father says, yes, this was the beginning of the greatest friendship you can imagine. Filipino people are wonderful. If ever you want a friend, it's a Filipino. Let me tell you, honestly, they have saved our lives so many times. And they told my father what they want to do, which was they were going to give my father 50 or 60 Filipinos who were guerrillas at night, but during the day they would work for my father. So he said, okay. And they did that. So my father started a factory of cleaning equipment for rifles, for pistols, for bigger cannons, whatever was necessary. And at night, the Filipinos disappeared in the dark, and they did what they had to do. And they got so friendly with my father that my father actually, and he took some chances, accompanied them because some American soldiers were still hiding in the jungle, and he helped to bring them to a safer place. So that went on, and one day they closed all the schools. One day my father comes home, and he's got a piece of wood and a pair of old roller skates. And he said, "Look what I've got. I'm going to make a toy for you." And he nailed the roller skates to the piece of wood. And there was the first skateboard ever made, and we didn't make 1 penny.
Eric, for the sake of time, I know our live stream is concluding at 7:15. Janet, is that correct? Right? So if you're watching at home, we got about 42 seconds till your stream ends. But I mean, I'm in awe at everything that you've been able to share with us. Yes, give it up to, you know. I think 1 or 2 questions, and then I think we should come to a. Oh, you want to say something, Saul? You got something? No. 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Does anybody have a question for either one? Susan.
How do we get an invitation to Saul's birthday party?
How do we get an invitation to your birthday party?
Very simple, 23 of Holocaust Lane.
And then yes, Cheryl.
So how did you start with the spoons to be an instrument?
We didn't get the spoons yet, so I'm
Yeah.
going to do